Hello and welcome. You're watching News Central Television. I am Judith TV, and here are some stories making headlines beyond the continent. And we'll begin the news in the Rio de Janeiro of Brazil, where BRICS member nations on Monday fought back to reject a label that they were an anti-American alliance working to undermine the dominance of the United States as the world's dominant economic power. This followed a Sunday night threat by U.S. President Donald Trump against China, India, and other BRICS countries, with higher import tariffs hitting back at criticism by BRICS countries of his trade policies. The 11-nation grouping, which also includes U.S. allies as Brazil, Saudi Arabia, and Indonesia, is concluding a two-day summit in Rio de Janeiro. Trump's threat on Sunday night came as the U.S. government prepared to finalize dozens of trade deals with a range of countries before his July 9th deadline for the imposition of significant retaliatory tariffs. Meanwhile, China has said that BRICS was not seeking confrontation after U.S. President Donald Trump vowed to impose an extra 10% tariff on countries aligning with the bloc. Trump said he would send the first tariff letters to various countries on Monday, days before his deadline for trading partners to reach a deal expires. He said on Sunday he would send a first batch of up to 15 letters warning that U.S. levies on imports would snap back to the high.
金砖机制是新兴市场和发展中国家合作的重要平台，倡导开放包容、合作共赢，不搞阵营对抗，不针对任何国家。关于加征关税，中方已经多次阐明了立场：贸易战、关税战没有赢家，保护主义没有出路。
In the meantime, Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva says that ongoing discussions about creating a new regional currency are extremely important. The Brazilian president made this known during his speech at the New Development Bank's annual meeting in Rio de Janeiro. Lula highlighted that a regional trading currency among BRICS or broader South American nations would decrease dependency on the USD, reducing vulnerabilities and lowering transaction cost. He stressed that establishing such a currency demands, quote, seriousness, caution, and technical solidarity, and, quote, acknowledging complexity, yet insisting the conversation cannot be delayed. And joining us now for more on this is Global Affairs Analyst Ejike Okpa. Mr. Okpa, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you for coming on. Now, the BRICS countries have clearly rejected the label of being anti-American. So let's get this clear. Is it a case of a strong BRICS being America's enemy outright?
None of the above. You know, the BRICS thing has been going on since 1998. Some of the goals they have set, they haven't achieved it. I mean, we welcome responsible groups, you know, that want to do something first for their country before you do some, you know, for your global partners. What you see is a bunch of countries that are considered C countries, you know, trying to elevate their status to A countries, which is fine. At the end of the day, assuming they come up with their own currency, you have to first retire your debt in the dollar or the euro you have owned it. So again, you know, what happens to money is, you know, as an exchange for goods and services if the other side accepts it. But, you know, all this, you know, gerrymandering and gyration about, you know, what they're going to do to the world, we haven't seen it happen. But again, let's wait and see what happens. You know, this summit's been going on as long as it's gone on, but, you know, we haven't seen anything that would make anybody want to, you know, sit up and take notice.
Assuming President Trump's threat of 10% tariff came to be, what would that lead the global economy?
Well, I mean, you know, tariff is not new. Tariff has been going on for as long as countries found each other not wanting to trade. What Trump is, you know, saying is as if you export to America, you at least you deserve, I mean, extend the courtesy of buying from America so that we have a balance of trade. It's not in a case of somebody coming in and selling to you and they don't buy from you. No country will survive on those sort of trade arrangements. So what Trump is saying is, you know, it could be be a strict tariff on anything coming from a country, or it could be selected items. I said, okay, certain things coming from your country, there'll be a tariff. It's always a point of negotiation. You have to say it, and then somebody has to take notice and feel, oh, this is a target. This is targeting me. I'm going to have to go get into a talk and see if I can resolve it. So tariffs should not frighten anybody. You have something to sell, somebody wants to buy, then both of you get into some sort of terms and conditions. Bilateral relationships is always better than multilateral relationships. That's why, for me, it's a joke, what, BRICS people are doing. If you go back to the 50s when they started the non-aligned nations, those things have fizzled. What you want to do as a country that is viable is seek relationship that benefits your country and negotiate things so that you're not going to be a losing thing. So, that's what I encourage any country to do. Forget all the noise around you. Go for things that benefit your country. Every country should have the mentality of country first. Whatever that is, America is not entitled to America first. Every country should have that as part of their ability to engage other nations.
Well, China somewhat has a policy of, China first. And they have pushed back, saying specifically that the tariffs should not be used as a tool for coercion or pressuring. And I'm going to quote it. So, one has to ask, what exactly is it with Washington's tariff diplomacy at this point? Because that's a question they've asked.
But another country should not dictate what another country is supposed to do. If I say tariff is a taxation on goods that have been exported to the country that is importing it. It's strictly what that is. Every custom, it's money that goes to that particular government. So if China don't want it, then stop selling to America. It's just as simple as that. But China will not be able to be where China is if they don't trade with America. Let's be honest with it. Their trade with Russia is not giving them any boost. Their trade with Brazil is not doing anything. They need America. So the ego of, they shouldn't do this, as far as I'm concerned, that's a crap statement. America has the right to impose whatever they want to impose on anybody exporting to it. If you don't want it, do the alternative.
And now, we know that Brazilian President Luis Lula da Silva told reporters that he would only comment after wrapping up the summit regarding the tariffs and BRICS. But we know he's taking a swipe at NATO as well. Does America view BRICS as a threat to its own survival? A far cry, but it begs to ask.
No. Look, everybody's entitled to say something about the other person. What I'm saying is until the threat is acted upon, all the BRICS people are doing are efforts. It's commendable efforts. Well, let's see the outcome. At what point would whatever currency they come up with is going to be trading and be accepted against, the three main currencies we know about, euro, dollar, and the pound. Hey, there's room for that improvement. But the world has so much gotten into it. Even China measures the economy in the dollar. Everybody measures it because it's a global currency that has been accepted. So all these other things, what they should be doing is, hey, how do we negotiate trading terms? How do we negotiate terms coming into, money flowing into our country? The most important thing about money is interest rate. If you look at Nigeria, for instance, people are borrowing money at 30-40%. How are you going to survive? You don't need BRICS for that. You don't need World Bank for that. You don't need IMF. You should do your own internal, changes and say, hey, we should not charge anybody this kind of interest rate. But if you keep quiet and think, oh, you're going to go to summit, feel good for 2 days and come back and that's going to rescue your country, it's not going to happen. So money doesn't make any sense if the terms of borrowing is choking the economy. And that is what is happening. They are not able to speak up to the World Bank. They are not able to speak up to IMF. They just go around trying to form associations and groups that at the end of the day, the sum of the total can never be strong if the parts are weak. A lot of countries that are in the BRIC, column are weak countries. So what you got to do is, be strong. South Africa is not a strong economy. Egypt is not, China is a polluted one. India is a big-for-nothing nation. I mean, it's the largest democracy in the world. What comes out of India? But look at China, a communist country, is running circles around the most democratic country in the world. So what does that tell you? It's not about the form of government you have. It's the structure behind it and the leadership that is behind those countries. So because by now, India should supposed to be a powerhouse, but it has never been since it got independence in 1948. It has never been a very viable country. It's just big for nothing. And,
all right.
It has more educated people than any other country in the world.
All right. Well, Mr. Ejike, mostly thank you for taking out the time to join us. Ejike Okpa, the global affairs analyst, giving us a bit of insight following threats of more tariff hikes by U.S. President, and of course the BRICS, their summit. Away from that, search efforts continue for a fourth day for dozens of people still missing following flash floods in central Texas. At least 89 people are confirmed dead, with at least 75 in Kerr County alone. Camp Mystic, a girls' summer camp in the county, confirmed that at least 27 girls and staff were among the dead. More storms are expected in the region over the next 24 to 48 hours, with flood alerts in place until at least Monday evening. U.S. President Donald Trump signed a major disaster declaration on Sunday for Kerr County, as questions have been raised about whether adequate flood warnings were provided. The catastrophe unfolded in the early hours on Friday as the Guadalupe River rose more than 26 feet in less than an hour, causing widespread damage.
This morning we recovered 75 deceased bodies here in Kerr County, including 48 adults and 27 children. Of this 48 adults and 27 children, 15 adults and 9 children are pending identification. At present, there are 10 campers from Camp Mystic unaccounted for and 1 counselor.
Texas is grieving right now. The pain, the shock of what has transpired these last few days has broken the heart of our state. As of yesterday, the confirmed death toll was 82, and those numbers are continuing to go up. There's still 10 girls and 1 counselor from Camp Mystic that are unaccounted for. The Texans coming together, helping each other, engaging in acts of heroism. There have been over 850 high water rescues since this flooding began. 850.
I need to tell my community and those families who are waiting, this will be a rough week. Primary search continues, and we remain hopeful every foot, every mile, every bend of the river. Our work continues.
Britain on Monday marked the 20th anniversary of the 7/7 attacks on London's transit system by Islamic extremists that killed 52 people and injured more than 700, with commemorative efforts across the capital. A minute's silence was held at 8:49 a.m. local time, the moment when 3 suicide bombers detonated devices inside London Underground trains at Aldgate, Edgware Road and Russell Square on July 7, 2005. A 4th device detonated around an hour later on the upper level of a double-decker London bus. Prime Minister Keir Starmer, London Mayor Sadiq Khan, and local politicians and the commissioners of police, 3 of London's, 3 police forces, an ambulance and 5 services laid laid wreaths at a memorial to the victims in Hyde Park, while members of the public placed flowers at the entrances to tube stations.
We continue to commemorate a moment in time that left deep scars in the soul of our capital.
Hope is optimism with a broken heart. In the face of tragedy, optimism fails, but hope presents itself as a survival tool for the tenacity of the spirit that is in all of us. The good which is in Londoners is not erased by hatred or threat, but rather it's fostered to produce a harvest of hope for each generation.
You're watching news just beyond the continent. We're going on a short break. When we return, a case that captured the world, the convicted mushroom murderer. After the break, stay with us. Welcome back. Now, it's a case that captured the world's attention. An Australian woman found guilty of murdering her in-laws with a dish of beef Wellington laced with toxic mushrooms. The verdict marks the end of a sensational trial that shocked a nation. News Centre's international correspondent Afia Hagen has the story.
It was meant to be a quiet family lunch in rural Victoria. Instead, it ended in 3 deaths, a survivor clinging to life, and a murder trial that's gripped audiences from Melbourne to Mumbai. 50-year-old Erin Patterson has been found guilty of murdering her ex-husband's parents and his aunt by serving them beef Wellington laced with death cap mushrooms, one of the most poisonous fungi on earth. The July 2023 lunch began with prayers and ended in tragedy. Within days, Dawn and Gil Patterson and Heather Wilkinson were dead. Heather's husband Ian, a local pastor, survived but barely. Throughout her 2-month trial, Patterson insisted the meal was a terrible accident, but prosecutors painted a different picture, that she carefully planned the gathering, lying about a fake cancer diagnosis to lure her guests. They pointed to a food dehydrator found dumped in a rubbish tip and internet searches about death cap mushrooms growing just kilometres from her home. Known in her small town as a king cook and a true crime enthusiast, Patterson once called herself a super sleuth online, but in court she claimed she never meant to harm anyone. In the end, the jury didn't believe her. After 1 week of deliberation, they found her guilty of triple murder and attempted murder. A twisted tale of food, family and fatal deception, with the world watching. Patterson now faces life in prison. Her sentencing will be announced at a later date. For News Central, I'm Afia Hagen.
At least 12 Turkish soldiers have died from methane gas poisoning in northern Iraq. The soldiers were exposed to the toxic gas while searching a cave. 19 were taken to a hospital for treatment on Sunday. 5 dead the same day, while 7 others succumbed on Monday, according to separate statements from the Turkish Defense Ministry. The ministry identified the cave's location as U.S. envoy Thomas Barak on Monday said that he was satisfied by the response of Lebanon's authorities to a request to disarm Hezbollah, warning Lebanon risks being left behind as change sweeps other countries into the region. Now, Lebanese leaders who took office in the aftermath of more than a year of hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah have vowed a state monopoly on bearing arms while demanding Israel comply with the November ceasefire. Israel has kept up strikes on Lebanon and warned it will continue to do so until Hezbollah has been disarmed, while the movement's leader Naim Qassem said Sunday his group would not surrender or lay down its weapons in response to Israeli threats. Israeli President Isaac Herzog said he met with a delegation of European Muslim clerics in Jerusalem on Monday to discuss reconciliation and religious coexistence as war rages in Gaza. The president praised the delegation led by French Imam Hassan Chalgoumi for choosing a path of bridge building, dialogue and belief at a time of tension between Jews and Muslims. Clerics from France, Belgium and the Netherlands, Britain as well as Italy took part in the visit.
אתם אנשי רוח, אנשי אמונה, אנשי דת. יש לכם מסר חשוב מאוד של אהבת האדם ואהבת לרעך כמוך. אז עכשיו אתם אנשים מאוד אמיצים ואני מודה לכם כי ככה עושים תיקון בעולם. ומבקש להעביר לקהילות שלכם ולציבורים מהמדינות שבהם באתם בשורה של שלום. ואינשאללה היום בבית אל-אביד יבוא אולי איזשהו בשורת שלום. אני מקווה גם עם סוריה, גם עם לבנון, אינשאללה גם עם סעודיה.
رسالتنا إليكم أننا نحبك ونحب هذا الشعب العظيم.
ميوتشوال.
خليك.
خزارة.
ورسالة أخوة رسالة ذلك دعواتنا أن يعود الرهائن إلى بيوتهم آمنين سالمين
إن شاء الله.
وأن كذلك الأبرياء في غزة يكفي معاناتهم. ما عانيتموه بعد 7 أكتوبر سيادة الرئيس ليس حرب إسرائيل مع حماس، وليس حرب ضد حزب الله حزب الشيطان وقوى الشر، ولكن هي حرب بين عالمين. أنتم تمثلون عالم الأخوة، عالم الإنسانية، عالم المحبة، عالم الديمقراطية، عالم الحرية.
Israel's military launched airstrikes early Monday targeting ports and facilities held by the Iran-backed Houthi rebels, who responded with missile fire targeting Israel. The strikes came after the Houthis attacked a Liberian-flagged ship in the Red Sea that caught fire and took on water, later forcing its crew to abandon the vessel. On Monday afternoon, they said they launched the attack, which saw missiles and explosive-carrying drone boats set the vessel ablaze in the Red Sea. The Magic Seas attack raised fears of a renewed Houthi campaign against shipping that could again draw in U.S. and Western forces to the area, particularly after U.S. President Donald Trump's administrations targeted the rebels in a major airstrike campaign. And off to Russia, where the country recently ousted transport minister was found dead from a gunshot wound in his car in Moscow suburb on Monday, just hours after President Vladimir Putin abruptly dismissed him. Now, Russian authorities have launched an investigation with suicide cited as the leading theory. The 53-year-old politician was removed from his post by President Putin after barely a year in office before he was appointed transport minister in May 2024. He served as governor in the Kursk region, a border area critical to Russia's logistics and military operations. His dismissal came amid mounting transportation crisis, including widespread flight cancellations linked to Ukrainian drone attacks and a major ammonia leak at the Leningrad port. And that's pretty much all we can take from beyond the continent. Now, do remember, if you see anything out there, make sure to send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can always watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Go TV, channel 23, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and also live on YouTube. And thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV. Good night.